Welcome to my first video ever on this channel. I'm really excited. I'm sitting on this chair, which is not an outdoor chair at all, but I brought it outside just for the aesthetics, as the kids say. I'm drinking some herbal tea that's actually like bright blue. You can't really tell, but it's called Butterfly Magic or something like that. Thanks, Mom. So I am just here recording the intro for this first video that hopefully will become a series on this channel. And this is going to be a video going through my week and telling you what I cooked and the recipes that I'm using. I have been a vegetarian for 5 years now. I became a vegetarian as a junior in college, actually a vegan first for about a month, and then yeah, now I'm just a vegetarian basically. I do try to go more towards veganism. I'd say about half of my meals maybe are vegan. It's not something I count, it's just something that I'm kind of striving for. I'm always trying to go for less animal products when that is an option. So it's kind of like a fun challenge for me, I would say. My favorite thing to do with other women is to talk about recipes that they've been making lately, and so I thought that I would just start making videos about this very thing, and I'd love to hear what recipes you guys are making in the comments. It's just something that we have this creative outlet like all throughout our day, 3 times a day, 7 days a week to eat something, and why not make it something delicious and beautiful and nourishing. So I just think it's so much fun. Along with vegetarianism, I also love to reduce my waste. I love like reusing scraps to make veggie broth. I think I do that in this week's video, and just also reducing plastic waste in other ways, making things homemade like bread instead of buying it each week. And I do have the time to do those things right now with only one child, but I know eventually I won't, so do whatever you can do. But it's another fun challenge that I like to put into my weeks. I really love to use Pinterest to find recipes, and I will link all of the recipes that I'm using in these videos in my description boxes. But some of these recipes will be out of cookbooks, and I'll tell you what cookbooks they are and if I recommend them or not. I love cookbooks and food magazines so much. They are one of the only things that I collect, and I just love to pore over them and learn from them, even if it's not a recipe that I'm going to make. So I'd love to make a video all about my favorite cookbooks and maybe food blogs as well sometime. I also love to do some freezer cooking and really utilize my freezer well by prepping things and freezing them and doubling meals and putting those in the freezer. It just totally is a big help in really busy weeks to just pull things out of the freezer and you have a whole delicious homemade meal. I don't really know what I'm doing yet, but it's really been a fun process so far, so bear with me. If you're interested in this, probably the videos will get better. But please subscribe to my YouTube channel, please comment, please like, so that I know that this is stuff that you guys want to see. And if you have any recommendations for other videos to make, or if you have any recipes that you'd like to share with me, I always love that. Please leave those in the comments. And without further ado, let's get into this week's first video, what I ate in a week and fed my family on a vegetarian diet. So I made myself a cup of cold brew, which is super dark because it was the bottom of the jug of cold brew, so all the grounds are kind of at the bottom. And I decided to throw myself into a little project of making black bean brownies. Just kind of change out the brown sugar for coconut sugar because I just tried that the other day and really liked it. And I'm gonna sub out the 2 eggs for a non-dairy egg replacement, because I like to do that in baking recipes when I can, to just cut down on my egg consumption as much as possible. But I really like black bean brownies because they're really fudgy, and I just really love beans, so I'm just happy to get any more that I can. So I'm gonna make those now. We have arrived at my very favorite clip of the whole video, and oh, gets me every time. Don't worry though, I saved them. These brownies are so good, and my favorite thing about them is that they make a
wonderful afternoon snack with a cup of coffee, and they don't leave you feeling terrible.
We just got back from the grocery store and stocking up for our weekly meals. We got everything we were looking for. We got one more beet because I've decided to double the beet burger recipe that I was making. I think it makes 6 patties, so I want to double it, make 12, and put at least half of them in the freezer. Putting things in my freezer is something that I love to do, but I often forget to do it. It's something I discovered when I was making freezer meals before Saffron was born, and it was such a big help. And I just think it's really easy to double what you're making, especially on soups and stews and chilies. That sort of thing is really easy, but veggie burgers freeze beautifully. This recipe is from a blog called From My Bowl, which is one of my very favorite vegan food blogs. And these are the ingredients. We have a lot of walnuts, a lot of oats, a lot of beets, and then some beans, spices, garlic, some ground flax seeds. There's even cinnamon in this, which I really love. Just really complements the earthy flavor of the beets really well. So it's a pretty easy recipe. You don't even have to cook the beets ahead of time. They bake in the oven with the burgers.
I served this meal with some potatoes and broccolini, and baby girl ate so much food. It's one of her favorite meals.
It is Tuesday morning, and Saffron and I are just starting to think about dinner plans and what we need to prep for dinner. So I unfortunately forgot to soak any beans last night for the chili. Yes. So I'm instead going to soak about a pound of beans that I have, just random dried beans, in some boiling water for a while to soften them before they actually cook in the chili. I am also making some homemade veggie stock out of a bag of frozen vegetable odds and ends that I've been saving in my freezer for way too long. Making homemade veggie stock like this has a little bit more nutrients, and it also prevents some food waste, so I really like that. Let's see if I can show you. There it is, lots of odds and ends, some squash, a lot of onions, some celery, and some mushrooms. So hopefully that'll be really good, and I'm excited to make chili tonight. I let my vegetables cook in water for an hour or two, and then I strained it out, added some white miso and some soy sauce, and it is so delicious. This is definitely the best homemade vegetable broth that I've ever made, and I'm gonna use it in the chili, and then I'm also going to freeze the leftovers in some mason jars in my freezer. I have the chili in my very dirty crock pot. It's just some beans, lots of spices, some tomato paste, some crushed tomatoes, and then I also added some finely chopped walnuts, which gives it a really meaty texture in there, probably about a cup or 3/4 cup of them in there. There's a pound of dried beans, and then also some cocoa powder, which brings out the rich flavor once again. Dinner is ready and it looks super yummy. We've got chili and lots of the fixings. We've got cheese, cilantro, avocado, and Greek yogurt instead of sour cream. I like sour cream a lot better than Greek yogurt on chili, but I only have Greek yogurt, so that's fine. I also made a nice cornbread. How was the chili? Eat your whole bowl.
We've now come to Wednesday, and we're making one of my very favorite recipes, stuffed acorn squash. I'm actually using a carnival squash in this recipe because I had never seen one before, and it looked like it would be like an acorn squash, and it was. There's mushrooms in this recipe, which always makes me really happy. I love mushrooms so much, and my husband doesn't love them so much, so I have to kind of disguise them, but they're diced in this recipe, so not too big of a deal. This recipe always makes me feel like fall is at hand. I always make it in September or early October, and it's become really nostalgic for me. It's not a very hard recipe, and it's stuffed with farro, which is a really yummy grain, and it has a lot of protein in it too. So I really enjoy the way it tastes, and also the protein in it is great. You can see I'm adding the seeds from this squash into my freezer bag to make stock in the future. I think squash makes really good stock. So all of these things, the mushrooms, the onions, some garlic, the walnuts, these are all gonna be sauteed and toasted, and then they will be stuffed into this squash and baked.
So I had to bake these squash for I think about 35 minutes in a very hot oven, and they're really tender now. You just put some salt and pepper and olive oil on them and bake them face down. And now I'm going to stuff them with the farro, mushroom, onion, yummy mixture that I made earlier. Those are gonna bake for about 10 more minutes until everything's all hot and yummy, and then we will eat them once they cool just a little bit. So it is Thursday, and tonight is going to be a leftovers night, which I'm super excited about. Not only because we ate some really good meals this week, but also because I'd really like to have my fridge back, because it's just, I need more space so I can cook more food, so I can fill up my fridge and then eat leftovers again. Anyway, that's my check-in for the day. See you tomorrow. So it is Friday and it's 4:19 currently. So tonight I am very excited because we are going to be cooking out of my very, very favorite cookbook of all time ever. It's called One Pan, Two Plates by Carla Snyder, and this is the vegetarian edition. There is a meat eating edition too, and I've gotten that for friends and they love that one too. I really recommend these cookbooks. They are awesome. So to start out, I'm going to chop all this up, chop up a whole, well, actually a half an onion, because I ran out of onions somehow, which is kind of insane because they're like my, I kid you not. It's a miracle onion, folks. I just found it. It is in my fruit bowl. An onion is not a fruit. Well, chop these up, chop the onion up, saute that, and then get rolling with the pasta, the cream, and the cheese. Oh man, I gotta grate all that cheese. Oh, great.
So I realized that I never said what I was making, but I'm making mac and smoked Gouda, but I'm just using regular cheddar cheese. And it's got some sauteed Swiss chard in it too, to give it some greens. And here's a delightful mango cutting sort of fail. Here's our finished macaroni and cheese. There's already a scoop taken out for saffron, but came out pretty yummy looking, and nice bowl of mangoes on the side. So this is going to be our last meal of the week, so I will see you next week. Thanks for watching.